Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you for this class that we are having today, which is a virtual class, and I am very happy that you are able to fix time to attend to this class. Uh, for those of you who are studying online, I want to hope that you are able to use these opportunities to be able to attend to your classes. And I want to hope that you will take it as a real-time classroom so that you are able to participate in these classes, but also you are able to grasp at least the learning outcomes that will be emanating from this particular class. Now, in the previous class, we had an introduction to worldviews, but also we were able to look at some of the major worldviews and look at the factors that influence worldviews and some other introductory aspects to this class of worldview. Now today we'll be looking at how these worldviews compete in terms of their understanding on some particular aspects of the 5 different aspects of worldview that we had been able to look at in the last class. And so straight away we'll start from the first worldview, that is the naturalistic worldview. If you like, you may also call it naturalism. Now, from this word naturalistic or naturalism, I want to believe that you can guess what this worldview is about. This is a worldview that underscores or that understands that there is only one single natural world as shown to us by science. This worldview presents to us the world as one single world, and this world is a natural one, so there is nothing supernatural about the world. That is according to naturalism or scientific worldview. This worldview believes that everything about this one natural world is that which is revealed to us by science. And therefore, if there is nothing that science has not revealed to us, this worldview does not believe in it. This worldview does not bother itself about. For example, things of spirituality, uh, things like maybe God or angels, spirits, heaven, hell. In as much as these supernatural things cannot be revealed by science, naturalism or naturalistic worldview does not believe in it, and usually they conclude that since science cannot reveal such things, it definitely or it probably does not exist. So there is no room for the supernatural in this worldview. Now, this worldview also holds that everything that we are and everything that we do are connected to the rest of the world. Who we are and what we do has got a connection with the rest of the world. Who we are and what we do has a connection with nature, with the environment, with the universe, with the waters, with the trees, with the animals, both domestic and wild, and many others. So what we are and what we do cannot be divorced from the rest of the world. It's part of us. We are connected to it, and also the rest of the world is connected to us. It is also true that this worldview understands that the consciousness, the human consciousness, and the choices of human beings and even our highest capacities are material based. Even when human beings seem to be a kind of hyper organisms, organisms that are classed apart from the rest, organisms that can make choices, organisms that are moral beings, organisms that have got the highest standard of consciousness from the rest of the uh, other organisms that exist. Naturalism believe that however much different we are from the rest of the uh, other things that we see in the world or other living organisms, we are still material beings. There is nothing special uh, beyond the spiritual nature of man that makes man special. And so maybe it is because of the evolution of the human brain uh, that naturalism believes that we are what we are now. We can reason well, we can make better choices, and so on, not because we are special beings, maybe having supernatural characters, but simply because it's just we are materials, we are materially based, and so uh, this is the world in which we are. We have nothing apart from that which we can see or that which science can reveal to us. There is nothing that is beyond this natural universe. And another statement on naturalism states that our full connection to the world uh, and other things in the world actually are the things which are responsible for the ethical behaviors of mankind. So if you see, humanity is very compassionate, humanity has got a kind of ethical values. It is not because maybe a supernatural being like God has perhaps maybe told us to do so, but it is because we are connected to the rest of the world, we are connected to humanity, we are connected to inanimate things, we are connected to other animated things, and therefore we have a responsibility to be able to live ethical right with the rest of these other creatures and with the rest of the other uh, even the rest of the other human beings, because we have an obligation. If we are to have our living here on earth better, then we need to develop ethical values. Values like that will help us protect the environment, not cut trees, values that will inform us not to reclaim the swamps, values that will inform us maybe to act justly to our neighbors, to act justly to humanity, and so on. So it is the simply the connection that we have with the rest of the world and even with the other humanity that actually makes us to be ethical being, but not, for example, biblical values or maybe other requirements by other supernatural uh, beings. So those are some of the statements about naturalism. You'll find it a little bit weird, but that is the kind of worldview that naturalism holds. Now, let's look at some of the key characteristics of naturalism, and here we shall look about 7 basic characteristics of the naturalistic worldview. Uh, Characteristics number 1: naturalism believes that everything can be known or everything can be explained in the universe. Everything in the universe can be explained by nature. Everything in the universe can be known by nature. Uh, if there is anything that exists in the in this universe, then such things can either be explained, or it can be understood, or it can be known by nature. I told you that this worldview rules out the possibilities of the supernatural, and so you don't even when you think in the direction of naturalism, you do not even have to think of something supernatural. So for them, everything is bound within nature, within the universe. And therefore, if we want to understand more, if we want to know more about the universe, if we want to explain why certain things happen in certain ways, we have to use nature to be able to explain why they are so. And so later we shall see theories of evolution or other theories like the Big Bang theory and so on becomes very key in trying to understand some of the changes that happens uh, in organisms, or some of the things that happen, even perhaps even why we do exist and so on. So this naturalism believe that everything can be known, or everything in this universe can be explained by nature and nature alone. So we do not need the Bible, for example, to be able to explain why we are here. If we want to know how we existed as human beings on earth, then uh, we have to seek that through nature. We do not have to seek it maybe through uh, maybe an instruction or a revelation from another source that is outside of the universe. Number two, this worldview believes that relying on supernatural, or the supernatural things are things that are outside of the natural world. And of course, the natural world is the world that we can see, or the world that by nature can be known. So naturalism believes that uh, relying on supernatural things is actually impossible. It is epistemologically unknowable. The word epistemology actually refers to the act of knowing. So naturalism believes that something that is supernatural, that is not part of this world, if it is there, first of all, they believe it is not there, but even if it is there, they believe that we can't know it. And therefore, if you believe in supernatural things, either you are ignorant, or you are superstitious, or you are being unscientific. You are being one who believes things without evidence. Say, for example, for so many years, people have been believing in the existence of God. People have been believing in the existence of angels, of demons, of spirits. But there is no scientific evidence that naturalism can show to us that can prove that, yes, God is there. And therefore, they believe that since these things cannot be empirically known, believing in supernatural things is is uh, is being fake. It is being ignorant. It is being superstitious. It is being unscientific, and it is a kind of faith, and faith, of course, has no place in naturalism. Later, we shall be able to see whether some of these characteristics of naturalism really holds water, especially when we shall be able to compare this worldview to the Christian worldview. But number three, naturalism believes that matter is the only thing that exists in this world. And so remember in your O-level physics or in your primary science, if you still remember, well, matter is something that has weight and which is able to occupy space. So naturalism believes that it is only matter. Matter is the only thing that exists in this world, and it is the only thing that empirically we can know. We can put it to scientific test and we can prove that it is there. For example, if you talk about air, you may not see air because it is colorless. But air can be proved because it has weight, it occupies space, and it can be proved by scientific methods that it is there. So they believe that matter is the only thing which exists, and if anything is not matter, I think if you talk of things like spirit, you cannot weigh a spirit. You cannot even you cannot even weigh either by weighing the mass or even weighing the volume of a spirit. So, because that cannot be done empirically, therefore, naturalism will think that no, such things perhaps they don't exist. Number four, in naturalism, it is also believed that the world is directly experienced through the senses, and that is what we call empiricism. The world is experienced through our senses, either our unaided senses or our aided senses. So, of course, we know the five senses: the mouth, which is for, the tongue, which is for taste. We know the nose for smell. We know the eyes for vision. We know the ears for hearing, and the sense of touch, which is through the skin. So naturalism believes that the physical world, this world, the natural world in which we are, which is the only thing that exists, can be experienced by the senses. And if anything cannot be experienced by the senses, then it does not exist. It is not there. It is supernatural, and there is no space for it in this natural world. And therefore, things like divine revelation, uh, probably even cannot be spoken of when you talk of naturalism. And then the next characteristics is that naturalism believes that naturalism distinguishes between the physical reality and the non-physical reality. And they call the non-reality things which are not real according to their worldview as the unknown. So if you talk of things like dreams, things like faith, things like superstition, illusions, and so on, these are things that are unknown. They are non-real. It can only be real if it has been proven by scientific methods, but as long as they have not yet been proved, then they are not real, and therefore they can be rubbished off. And so there is a clear distinction between the two. But when you come to worldviews like the African traditional worldview, you will find that things like superstition, things like faith, even in Christianity, cannot be divorced from the physical things. For example, if I'm sick, in naturalism, I am sick because of natural causes. I am sick because there is a pathogen that perhaps has made me sick, or maybe I lack some nutrients in my body, so the deficiency of the nutrient causes me to be sick, or maybe it is a damage, physical damage, for example, by an accident and so on. But for example, in African tradition, uh, one may fall sick, but the cause of the sickness can be supernatural. Maybe it is the ancestors that has made you to be sick, but not necessarily diseases or disease-causing agents. But even if it is disease-causing agents, maybe it is the ancestors, or maybe it is the evil spirits that has made those disease-causing agents to be able to infect your body. So you see, in naturalism, that does not exist. If you are sick, it is a physical cause. It has nothing to do with the supernatural cause. But in other worldviews, we shall see that actually the reverse is true. And then number 6, uh, naturalism teaches that the universe is a closed system. It is a self-sustaining system. It is closed, and it does not need aid from supernatural powers to sustain it. The universe sustains itself. It is not open to external control, or it is not open to interferences from external forces or from outside sources. I will continue to say that, of course, we know in Christianity, for example, we believe that it is God who sustains the universe. But naturalism will say that no, if God cannot be part of the universe, if God is not a physical thing, and then the universe is closed for God. God cannot be part of the universe because the universe is a closed system. So even if there is God somewhere, he has no place in this universe because the universe is a closed system. Which of course, according to the Christian faith, we shall see it is a contrast, a very big contrast, but also we shall be able to see that that is, at least from the Christian perspective, it is not true that maybe the universe is a closed system, because God is the creator, and therefore the scriptures, in so many parts of the scriptures, the scriptures talk of God being the sustainer of the universe, and therefore God can have his way into this universe. Is the one who holds the pillars of the world, and therefore he has something to do with this universe because it is his universe. Maybe three more characteristics, and then we move to something else. In naturalism, there is a skepticism against supernatural things. Remember, I've always emphasized that naturalism does not believe in the supernatural. But in case there is a claim towards the supernatural, uh, naturalism is always skeptical about it. For example, if I say that I have been sick, and maybe I have been healed supernaturally without using any medicine, naturalism will be skeptical about whether really truly I am healed, whether truly I am okay. But for a man of faith, for a Christian, maybe for an African traditionalist, it is normal to get healed, perhaps supernaturally. But here, naturalists are people who are skeptical towards supernatural things, and some of them go to the extent by saying that if God exists, God must be part of the universe, and if He's not part of the universe, then He's not there. If God is there, then He must be part of the cosmos. He's not a separate. He's not a separate being. He must be a part of this universe, right where we are. And then also in naturalism, scientific principles are the only ways in which we can know more about the world. Scientific methods, like in the laboratory, some of us, when we are yet in O level, we were introduced to scientific methods, carrying experiments in the laboratory, and so on and so on. Actually, we were being introduced to naturalism. So naturalism believe that scientific principles they're the principles that forms the basis for knowing the framework for which we understand the world. It is only the scientific principles that gives us this framework to understand the world. If it is not, then we can't in any way understand the world without science. I think that is the last. So things like the laws of gravity, magnetic powers in the magnetic fields in the universe, and so on, laws of motion, and these are the things that naturalism will want to study more and more because they look at these scientific principles to be all scientific methods of the cause and effect. They look at all these things as a way of in which the universe actually sustains itself. So the world is a kind of a mechanical thing that it's predictable. You can predict this system because it is a mechanical system. So briefly, that is about the naturalistic worldview. I know when the time as we have more other classes in the weeks to come, we'll be able to keep referring to naturalism from time to time. But let's look at about two more worldviews, two or three. I think Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam, before we finally close this class today. Now, Hinduism is a worldview that is basically belonging to the Hindu or the Muindi, the Indians. And if you go to Arua town, you will find next to Arua Public Primary School, you will find the Hindu temple. And so maybe if you want to know more about the Hindu worldview, you can find your way to a Muindi who is a Hindu. Not every Muindi is a Hindu. There are good Muindi Christians, some Muindis are Muslims, and others belong to other religions, but a number of them are actually, they belong to Hindu religion. So what is Hinduism, or what are the basic beliefs of Hinduism? In Hinduism, First of all, there is nothing like the supernatural, or there is nothing like a one supreme God. That understanding in Hinduism of a God that is supreme is a missing link. It is not there. But rather, something that is equivalent, similar to God. But mark me right, they don't believe in the existence of a supernatural, I mean a supreme God. In Hinduism, there are so many gods. So you can have a god that is a pushkat, you can have a god that is an idol, and so on and so on. You can have 100 gods. One person can have so many gods. So there is nothing like this one supreme God that is overall of everything. No, they don't have that kind of teaching. So, but Hinduism has something that is equivalent of God, if you want to say, but that is in quotes. Hinduism believes that there is only one reality, and that reality is not God, but it is like a principle. It is non-material. It is spiritual. It is even beyond description. You cannot describe what it is. That's why we are saying that it's something that is, if you want to say, uh, similar to maybe God, but actually it's more of a principle, and this principle is called Brahma, the Brahman. Uh, so the Brahman is the only thing that exists. It is the only thing that is real. The rest of the other things we see in the universe are not real according to Hinduism. Even as human beings, maybe this computer that I use uh, to be able to pass message to you, or even the computer, your smartphone that you are using to be able to attend to this class, and another thing that exists on this universe is not real. So it is only the Brahma, which is a principle. It is a non-material thing. It is like a spiritual thing, but it is not God. And this thing is beyond description. We cannot describe it. So if you read Hinduist books, you will not find maybe a description of this Brahma, because it, it is something that is not uh, describable by human beings. Uh, So they believe that there is only one reality, and this reality is the Brahman. Now, the rest of the other natural things, which science or naturalism says it is the only thing that exists, in Hinduism, actually, that is an illusion. It is a Maya. Illusion, they call it Maya, and Maya refers to illusion, something that is illusionary, something that is not real. Can you imagine? Science says that the only thing that is real are the things that we can see, we can touch, we can smell, we can see, we can hear, or we can taste. But Hinduism says no. These are things that are natural, that are material. These things are actually, they are virtual, they are illusionary, they don't exist, they are not real. Can you imagine that even me who is speaking to you now, Hinduism says that I'm not real, I'm illusionary? Okay. So, but they believe that these illusionary material things can actually, with time, can be through evolution. We shall later talk about the life cycle. Uh, uh, like me, who is now talking to you, if I was one who believes in Hinduism, I know that I'm not real, but through evolution, through some processes, especially through doing good things, one can easily evolve and be united to that one to that one uh, to that one reality, that is the Brahma. And so they believe in a life cycle. Remember, you talked about the life cycle of butterflies, insects, and other organisms in perhaps possibly in your senior your lower secondary school biology. But this is not the kind of life cycle that we mean in Hinduism. The kind of life cycle here is a life cycle where you live your life, you die, and then you are reborn into either human being or perhaps something else. So your life does not start and end, but your life continues and it ends until when you are able to gain points that can allow you to evolve and be united with the Brahma. And so the human soul is real. They also believe that the human soul is real, although the ultimate reality is the Brahma, but the human soul is real. And this human soul is captured in the body as a prisoner. So this body we have here is a prison uh, that is holding the spirit captive, that is holding the soul captive. And one of the best things that humanity can do is to do good things so that the soul can escape from this prison and be united to the Brahma. It's like similar to salvation or being born again in Christianity. So throughout one's life cycle, one has to ensure that he or she does good things so that the good things you do are able to earn you points that can help you to keep up evolving, and then you find that finally you evolve and then you are united with the Brahma. And the moment you're united with the Brahma, then now you don't get reborn because you have now achieved the ultimate goal in life. But also the funny thing about this life cycle is that sometimes if you don't live well, you can be reborn into other things. You can be reborn into a snake, or you can be born into a poor person. You can be born into a miserable life simply because of the previous life that that you lived, which did not earn for you enough reasons for you to be born into better persons. And so I don't know, some of us, the way we live, if we were Hindus or we believed in Hinduism, or if what they believe is true, then maybe the next snake that I will kill behind my house could be you, who will have reincarnated, who will have been reborn into a snake, maybe simply because you did not live your life well in the past. So if we go by Hinduism belief, then I will implore all of us to make sure that we live well, and later we shall be able to see some of these things that you can do so that you are able to live well. So that kind of thing that we do, which earns us point, is called karma. I want to believe that you can mark these key terminologies. We started by talking about the Brahma, we talked about Maya, we talked about Samsara, and now we are talking about karma, the law of cause and effect. What you do is the one that will affect your life in the future. If you do good, maybe you are born today in a poor family, but you do good things, you may be reborn after you have lived this present life. If you die, you can later be reborn into a rich family. And so in Hinduism, because of this, they have classes, and they have what we call caste system. And therefore, if you are born poor, actually, ideally, you don't have to work hard so that you can become rich, because they believe that that is what life has for you in that particular time. That is what fate has for you. And so you should rather do good things and wait until you die, and maybe by fate you can be reborn into uh, a socially upper class. So if you look at the Indian people today, you will find that because of the previous caste system that they were having, where some people are rich and it is fate that makes them rich, and some people are poor and it is fate that makes them poor, you find that the gap between the rich and the poor is very wide. Thank God that now, because of modernity and so on, even the poor are struggling to make sure that they are rich. But the 1 billion population of India up to now, you will find that India is one of the richest countries in this world with the richest people. But you find that again, India has the poorest people because of this kind of system, where they believe that if you are born poor in a present life, that is your fate. And therefore, you have to live that life, but live well, so that maybe by chance you can later be reborn into a fair and a better family. So that is the kind of the karma, the law of cause and effect. What you do today decides your life tomorrow. What you do in your life today will decide what type of life that you will have tomorrow. So that is Hinduism. But also let's briefly talk about Buddhism. We shall talk about these things very briefly because time is coming when we shall look into the details of these things. Now, Buddhism is a religion that is basically emanating from Japan, and sometimes you'll find it is called Japanese worldview. Buddhism is a worldview that emanates from the teachings of Buddha, or the religion Buddhism emanates from the teachings of Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. Now, Buddhism is deeply concerned with pain and suffering. At the time when Buddha was teaching, or when Buddha was prompted to become a moral teacher, to begin to teach, there was a lot of suffering among the Japanese people for various reasons, and his teachings were out of his self-drive to say that people alleviate or people come away from suffering. And so deep Buddhism has got a very deep concern with the pain and how pain and suffering can actually be removed or it can be alleviated. In Hinduism, it is believed that man has no soul, and so while Hinduism teaches that man has a soul, Christianity believes that man has a soul. I guess Islam has the same teaching, but Buddhism, man does not have a soul. And also, Buddhism believes that there is nothing that is permanent. Nothing is what is permanent. But also, they have something that is similar to the human soul, but really, it's not directly the human soul. It is called the Atma. And the Atma is similar to the Hindu, what the Hindu will refer to, or a Hindi will refer to as the soul. But Buddhism believes that the Atma is not eternal. Remember, in Christianity, the soul is eternal. In Hinduism, the soul is eternal. It means it doesn't die. It lives forever. In Hinduism, it is this soul will evolve and it will be united with the Brahma. In Christianity, the soul will go back to God who created it, and you either live in heaven or you live in hell, depending on how your relationship with Christ has been. But in Buddhism, the soul is not eternal, and also they have a teaching about like the karma. For them, they call it dharmas. So sometimes what you do will help the soul to keep evolving from one state to another. A similar kind of thing with the reincarnation. So your soul can keep evolving from lower state to better state. The Buddhist worldview has a notion of the self, identity or personality. They believe that the notion of the self or identity or personality is illusion. Uh, the awareness of the self is illusionary, and the more aware you are of the self, the more pains you'll find, the more pains you'll go through. And so, self-awareness or one's identity or one's personality, the more you are aware of yourself, the more you think about yourself, the more pain and suffering that you will go through. So they believe that the I thing, or the ego, what we call the ego, is an illusionary thing, and it is the reason why we are suffering. Because if you think more about I, or if you think about the self, you'll begin to think of maybe having having some desires of life. emotional desires, physiological desires, physical desires, and so on. And the more desires we have, the more trouble we get ourselves into. I can promise you, according to this worldview, some of you desire to get paper so that you can be promoted, but in the process of getting your paper, you have to study for 3 years. You have to look for school tuition in a very painful way. Sometimes you have to sacrifice. Those of you who pay yourself, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Maybe your family does not eat meat for the whole years that you are studying because you cannot afford it, but because you want to study. So it is your ego that has made you to study so that you can be promoted or you can get better salaries. That is your ego, and now it is making you to suffer. How I wish, really, if this was true, then I could give you permission to go back home so that you don't keep suffering in order to fulfill the desires of your ego. I'm joking. Now, the Buddhist worldview also believes that life continues as long as there is desire. What makes life to continue is desire. If you don't desire, if you stop desiring, and then your life will cease. But if you continue to desire, then your life will continue. Your life will continue to be recycled, or your life will continue to you will continue to be reborn. So there is birth, there is life, there is death, and then there is birth again, there is rebirth. What is called the samsara that we had been able to talk about in Hinduism. So the more we desire, and then the more the soul will continue to live, or the atma. But if we stop desire, and then remember they say the soul is not permanent, and therefore there can be an end. So if you don't want to continue to suffer, if you don't want to be reborn into next life so that you keep suffering, then you stop desiring. Then your life will cease, and then also you will be safe from future suffering. Briefly, that is about the Buddhist worldview. And before we conclude, let's look at the Islamic worldview. And I think that will be enough for this class of today. Now, Islam is one of the newest religious movements that started almost about close to 600 years after the birth and death of Jesus Christ, and it has become one of the popular worldly religions. Islam is based on the teaching that there is one God, and that God is called Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. So there is one God called Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. And the teachings of Allah that is revealed to Muhammad as written in the Quran and in the Sunnah are the ones which give the basis for the Islamic teachings. So the teachings or that Allah has revealed to Muhammad that is written in the Quran or that is written in the Sunnah, and they provide the basis for the Islamic belief. In Islam, there is a belief that there is only strictly one God, which is called monotheism. They believe in so many gods is called polytheism. They believe in one God is called monotheism. They believe that there is no God is called atheism. And so there are those a lot of themes that maybe we shall keep learning through in this class. So Islam is a monotheist religion. And actually, if you look at the Abrahamic religions, all the religions that emanate, at least that has a root into Abraham, you look at Judaism. Judaism believes in monotheism. If you read through the scriptures, God says He's the only one. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, God says the Lord your God is one. So Judaism believes in the oneness of God. Christianity believes in the oneness of God. Islam believes in the oneness of God. And this God, there is no other God but Allah alone, and He's the all-powerful God. And every Muslim must be able to submit to the will of Allah, because Allah is the supreme being, and our life is predestined in Him. That is the teaching of Islam. So Islam is submission. You have to submit to the will of Allah. And this Allah is one God. Sometimes the Muslims misinterpret us Christians because they think that because we talk of God, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they accuse us that we are worshiping three gods. But actually, yes, sometimes we fail to explain what the Trinity means. And so the Muslims are maybe right to point fingers at us. But the understanding of the Trinity, the triune God, is not that there are three gods. But there is one God, but this God has revealed himself to us as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. For example, during the time of the baptism of Jesus Christ, we are told Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God, was in the water being baptized, and then the Holy Spirit descended on Jesus Christ in the form of a dove, and then a voice spoke from heaven, and the voice said that, "Behold, this is my Son, in whom I am pleased." And so you see, there is God in heaven, the Father speaking, the Son is in the water being baptized, and then the Holy Spirit descended upon him. But you can see already there is a problem here. If we are not careful, it looks like as if there are three gods, because there are three things that we can say are the same sin. But yet, God is one. God is unity. God is not two, three. God is not plural. God is one. We are not in a theology class, but I think we shouldn't be confused that Christians have three gods. Christians have got one God. Is the God who has accepted revealed himself in so many things. Some theologians teach that God the Father, God revealed himself to us as the Father in creation. God revealed himself to uh, uh, God has revealed himself as the Son in redemption of the world, and then God has revealed himself as the Spirit in the sustenance of the redeemed world. But anyway, even in the beginning, we know that God exists, and God is the Spirit, of course, and even Jesus himself was there in the very beginning. Probably he was a spirit and he was God himself, but later he came to the world as in flesh. Well, the teaching of Trinity is a mysterious doctrine. Sometimes it is not easy to understand, but the fact is, uh, even as Christians, we worship one God. In Islam, there is a distinction between the created things and the creator. And so the creator is distinct from the created things. Remember, in naturalism believes that if there is God, God must be part of the creation. But in Christianity, but also here in Islam, God is not part of the creation. God is not infused in the creation, but God is distinct from the creation. Also, Islam believes that the relationship between God and man is like a slave and a master relationship. So man is a slave to God, and then God is a master to mankind. And it is also believed that death is not an end to life. There is a life after death. So those are some of the basic beliefs of Islam. But of course, later in some other classes to come, we shall look at things like the pillars of Islam and so on. But for today, I think we're going to stop there. There is a group activity that I have given for you here. For those of you who are weekend students or who study online, uh, you can do this work alone, but you are better when you do it in a group. But for those of you who are studying face to face, I have told you the number of people that you should be having in a group. So you should be able to do this work. And for those of you who study face to face, we shall have time when you represent your work in class. Meanwhile, for those who are either studying virtually, definitely for you have to submit to me virtually. And those of you who are weekend students, we shall later see how best you can submit this assignment. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time in this class, and we look forward to the next class. I wish you a very good study while at UC. Thank you. Bye-bye.